What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kieran and I help people using a spiritual perspective. Today I wanted to talk about something that I mention quite a bit. I don't know if you guys pick up on it, other than my penchant for sarcasm and open button shirts. Grounded spirituality. I mention this word a lot. I write about it a lot. Grounded spirituality to me is a unique term. It's not one of those things that is sort of floating around on the internet. It's something that I use. Now, it doesn't mean that other people don't use the phrase grounded spirituality, but it's not something that has like a definition or anything like that. However, I will define it for you because it's the platform of my YouTube channel. It's what I strive to obtain or to act like, even if I do sometimes struggle with it. Grounded spirituality, in my own words, is the steps of processing truth from within before deciding anything in the external. Okay, so rather than decide something's true out here and then start to embody it, you do the opposite. You start to discover a truth from within yourself, start to analyze it, start to introspect, start to meditate on it, and then decide if it is true out there. Grounded spirituality is a methodical process. It takes you through almost the scientific method of observation, persistence, and relativity. It allows you to get from one place, point A for instance, to point B in the most efficient manner possible, rather than going from point A and skipping over point B and then ending up at point F and saying that point Z must be correct. It's a weird sort of thing when people don't follow the process. So I'll give you some examples so I'm not just sort of talking out of my ass. So let's take the concept of something that we all love to talk about on YouTube, twin flames. Let's take that concept. Now, where does the word twin flame come from? Did some angel come down to earth and give us this English word? Is that what happened? Because it's the English word, remember, that's fundamentally chocolatey. It's not the Japanese word for twin flame. It's not it's not the German word for twin flame. It's not the Gaelic or any other forgotten language. It's English. It's the English word. So this word, twin and flame, where does it come from? Who first mentioned it? And if they did first mention it, do we trust that source? Should we? Is it something that can come from within us? And that's sort of what I mean with grounded spirituality. We take a concept like twin flames, and all the information is already there already. It's already in the external. And we see that. Often most of us do this. I did this at the beginning. And we see this, and then we just automatically decide if it's true or not. Because maybe we met somebody that has catalyzed something in our life. And it becomes very easy to take that, albeit spiritual connection, and label it. Label it something that's actually quite dangerous, that's already there before you. And it's not something you can essentially come to your own realization about. You can't get to a twin flame on your own. You can't. You imagine if you haven't heard any of those terms, and then you're trying to explain the connection that you feel with a particular person, and you go within. Does the words twin flame come out? No, that's not going to happen. That's never happened. Okay, no. People have come up with language just for the sake of it, because that's what language is. But it's not a truth or a term that has come from within us. So what that means isn't necessarily that it's all bullshit. However, it does mean that in order to remain grounded or to practice grounded spirituality, we have to make sure that we're integrating the parts of ourselves that are true. So we're not jumping headlong into a label, but that we are actually using our own senses, our own ability to intuit things as a way of measuring the truth of something, if it's right for us. Because if we were to do that, I certainly would have never, at the beginning of the sort of discovering this whole wide range of spiritual topic with twin flames, I would have not have jumped into a clearly narcissistic relationship. I wouldn't have let myself get led along. I wouldn't have gone through all that. I would have come to the conclusion, maybe not immediately, but I would have come to the conclusion that, yes, this person and I have a deep spiritual connection and it has catalyzed my life and they have come to change it. And that would have been fine because that would have been true. That is a grounded truth. That's grounded spirituality. Because it's something that you know, it's something you can come to on your own, it's something you can observe, something you can see, something that you know at the most basic level is absolutely true, right? And let's take another example. The spiritual awakening process, a very important part of my life, and hopefully if you're watching this, a part of your life. And that might mean something different to everybody, but spiritual awakening, the awakening of the soul, okay? The realization of a deeper layer or meaning behind life, and our own unique truth and discovering that and owning that process. Essentially, the feeling of coming back to self, right? That's spiritual awakening. Now, the way I've just described it is a pretty basic way of understanding it. You can get there. You can get those words, those understandings through your own intuition, through your own senses, through your own inner dialogue. You can get there. But when people start throwing you different kinds of truths about the spiritual awakening that you can't get to on your own, that's when you need to start drawing some kinds of lines or barriers. Sure, you can have a gate or a fence to let them in, but you don't want them to just flood your system. That's the over-information part of the spiritual awakening, information overload. It happens to a lot of people. There's just so much information. So whereas before the spiritual awakening, is a process of getting back to yourself, meaning that the layers of who you think you are begin to fall apart, you become disillusioned. Okay, these are all basic ideas. But then people start throwing you things like, you're a star seed, you're from this place, you were like this in a past life, or we all come from this type of thing, or God or source of the universe, and everybody has a different explanation of how exactly we are souls, what that means. People start getting into weird stuff like timelines and parallel universes, which are quite frankly nonsense. And then they use that as more information to just give you, right? And that's not grounded. It's not that I don't necessarily believe in some of these things that I've been mentioning. Of course I do, but me believing in them is more of a side effect of something, and rather than a dogmatic approach. Because I don't need any of those other things to be true. All I do know that's true is that the spiritual awakening is a process of me getting to understand my deepest self at the highest or deepest level, to really try to integrate what it is that I am beyond my thoughts, right? The most basic truth of the spiritual awakening is you're not your thoughts. You're not that chatter. That's just radio playing. And sometimes the radio plays a song that you like, sometimes it doesn't. And everywhere in between, it's just goddamn ads. So it's not to be demonized or anything like that. But we can come to these conclusions on our own, right? Letting go. Everybody knows how to let go. And yet some guru, self-proclaimed naturally, will charge you $200, $300, $400 in order to teach you the most basic thing that everybody knows. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't charge or have services to help other people, as people who like spiritual people, of course. I do coaching as well, but there's a difference between taking advantage of people's insecurity or naivety. That's not the word I'm looking at. Taking advantage of their naiveness, right? And actually helping somebody empower themselves by giving them the tools to do the things themselves, right? Like teaching, what's that stupid expression that people seem to say from the 70s and 60s and before? If you teach a man to fish, your horse dies. What's the thing? I don't know. You get it though. If you know how to teach, if you know how to do something, you can continue to do it rather than having someone do it for you. And that's grounded spirituality. Knowing that you can do the things on your own to get to this truth or to get to this realization. And letting go is one of those things that we all know how to do. And though sometimes we may need help remembering these basic truths, everybody can get there on their own, regardless of even your own spiritual awakening. You think spiritual people are the only people in life who have ever learned how to let go? Of course not. So we all have the ability to do these things. And truth has to be something that's accessible and applicable to all people. That's how you know that something is actually true. And things like star seeds and twin flames and all of the, astrology and all these other things, there's circumstances and different, different methods and different ideas, and they all start to branch out into different things: twin flames, violet rays, soulmates, all these labels and ideas and truths and all these perspectives, and it becomes very hard to actually practice grounded spirituality with all of them. And again, I'm not here to bash on any one of them in particular. I don't really care. It's more about having the confidence or the peace within yourself to get to the most basic thing. And so this is something that I want you, the watcher, the viewer, to try to integrate within yourself. Not because I want you to necessarily be like me, but because I want you to be better than me, or I want you to be better than who you were. I want you to be somebody that doesn't necessarily fall over easily, right? And when you practice grounded spirituality, it becomes harder to fall. You might sway in the wind, so to speak, but it becomes much harder to fall flat on your face. And if you did, because obviously sometimes in life we do, you can pick yourself up because you're able to get back to that base level. Okay? And I think a lot of people who are on that spiritual journey already have some of that base persistence. When I was younger, in my early 20s, I certainly enjoyed a bit of drugs, if I do say so myself. And despite my penchant for powdery substances and different kinds of pills that I would take from the cabinet, I was always able to come back. I always had a base. Even though I would dabble in this stuff, I would always get to a point where I was like, no, that's enough of that. I think I'm okay now. And it would never really last too long. Whereas the people around me at that time, they just really pretty much kept on going, kept on doing that. Now, I don't know if they're still doing that now. Obviously, I don't talk to those people. But they did not have that same base level. And I have that same base level. And you can think of that in the same way with grounded spirituality, is even if you make a mistake, even if something doesn't go your way, you have a base level of truth. And if you don't have that grounded spirituality, then what happens is all these outside truths, well, they fall apart, and then so do you. Because those things aren't meant to last long term. It's like things like the law of attraction. There's tons of evidence that the law of attraction works in the short term. And then what happens is those ideas and those beliefs, they fall on their face when reality actually hits you. When you realize that no, you don't always get what you want. You're not always going to get your manifestations. Things are difficult, that the bigger things take longer. It requires action, not just positive thinking. You have to feel your emotions. It's more important how you feel than you think, and all of these different things. And then suddenly concepts like the law of attraction or twin flames or any of these labels, they don't do it for you anymore, because you're at the point of your spiritual awakening where it's just you and your own process. It's just you and your own feelings, your own thoughts. It's you and your dialogue. It's you and your soul. It's you and the space in your heart that feels like there's a hole, or that it's empty, or that it needs to be filled. There's a vast chasm of darkness and possibly even a great beauty. And the only person that can do that can jump off that cliff into the unknown, is you. No other truth or outside circumstance can do it for you. No other person, no other dialogue, no other words, no twin flame, no soulmate. None of those people can do that for you. And grounded spirituality takes you back, gives you the tools and the power to do these things for yourself. And that's what empowerment is. And so, grounded spirituality, again, just to sort of recap this video, to end it here, is a process of something that you can do on your own, an internal realization that will then allow you to decide if something on the outside is true rather than the opposite.